everybody, Jedite here, and welcome to my Pagan vlog. As always, check out my website at wiccan.pw. I don't really have a topic for tonight's episode. Today is Mabon, so it is September 22nd. And I just finished up an online Mabon ritual with members of the Corellian tradition that I follow. And it got me thinking, and I wanted to share? I want to ponder out loud. So I don't know if this video will actually even go up or not. But we'll see. So it is 2020, so we are still dealing with COVID-19, the plague. So our ritual has been done online. They've done some rituals online. This is the first Sabbath ritual I've done online. I've also done a couple moon rituals, a full moon and a new moon. Well, I've always wanted to integrate technology into my practice. I, for whatever reason, just never really did. Let me adjust that. Oh, I'm sorry. I've wanted to. Sorry about that. I've wanted to add technology to my practice for a while. I've just never done a ritual online. I don't know why it's never come up. Maybe because there was just no real need to. I either would do it on my own, or I could do it with people in person. Doing it online was a different experience, though. We still, called the quarters, called deity, everything you'd expect in a ritual, but we did it online. And while I know technology can be integrated into witchcraft, on myself being a bit of a budding techno mage, when I integrate technology in, it's usually either I have my phone that I'm reading from, I have electric lighting on my altar because I want more than just a candle or two to light, and so I use RGB lighting. I can really set a mood. If I want to do a money spell, why have just a green candle when I can have all the light be green? Everything's got that green glow to it. It's a whole different mood. It really does. And I got a lot of lights. Like in a lot of videos, you see this red light over here. That's actually another RGB addressable light I use. But I mean, I can change that to be whatever I want. I got these lights all over my office. I used to leave that one red because I leave that one on overnight and it doesn't brighten up the house as much. But it got me thinking, tonight's ritual got me thinking about the place of ritual and technology. It made me really realize the first time I've actually done a big ritual with a number of people online that there is there's no major difference in how real the ritual is if online versus in person. I got the same spiritual fulfillment out of it as I would have if we had done it in person. But I also got to do it, one, with other people, and where I live currently, it's not a big town to start with. It's a fairly conservative town, so I doubt there's that many witches of any tradition here. And I certainly haven't met any. I've only, last week, found the New Age shop that's in our town, which is mostly they just sell crystals and some generic incense. Nothing super witchy, but it's better than having nothing at all. But yeah, being able to do it online not only gave me the ability to practice with other people because of where I live, because of the current world situation, I wouldn't have been able to. But also, it opened up people who working with them was really awesome, and I wouldn't have been able to. These are people who live all over the I don't even know where most live, but I know some of them might be in Jacksonville. I'm in Central Florida. There's some in Jacksonville. Some of them are one time zone over, so they're in Central Time Zone. Um, the one who actually, the priestess who actually sets up the, because usually we have two priestesses who run these online rituals in the tradition, and one of them does a lot of the reading. The other one actually has the altar, and they both stream it. The one who is doing the altar, she's traveling, so she actually pulled over to the side of the road, set up her travel altar, somehow got her computer online. I maybe threw a hotspot on her phone. I didn't ask, um, and streamed it from the side of the road in the rain. Which, Lady Pam, you're awesome for doing that. But it also, this online capability means, I get to work with people who have been an absolute joy to work with. These are wonderful people. I would have never met them, let alone be able to work with them, if it wasn't for things like Zoom and online rituals. I was reading a few weeks back. I can't recall what it was. But I was reading a section about setting up altars, and one said you should have nothing electronic or electric on your altar. Now, I understand there's a lot of pagans who, they don't like phones, they don't like electric watches, or even mechanical watches in their ritual. That's supposed to be their sacred space is technology free. And I can appreciate it. When I started practicing 20 years ago next month, time flies, right? I also did something similar to that. I mean, I don't even think I had a cell phone back then. Just not everyone had a cell phone strapped to them 24/7, even 20 years ago. Sorry, my train of thought just pulled out of the station without me. Oh, right. But I think that the current world situation has encouraged pagans who would not normally integrate technology with their practice in any way, shape, or form to at least temporarily embrace it and maybe let it get the ball rolling. I'm not saying these are all techno pagans. I do see there's a difference between pagans who use technology to like do research, to chat with others, versus those of us who want to actually actively integrate it into the ritual. I have electric lighting on my altar that actually is meant to set the mood for the altar. I can set it to be to be whatever color I want. If I want to do a money spell, which I've been doing lately because I'm a delivery driver and I need the tip money, having green candles great. Having green lighting is awesome. I also have a USB thumb drive on my altar because it contains a copy of my Book of Shadows. I don't have an actual physical copy. If I need to actually use my Book of Shadows at my altar, I actually have to pull out my phone, pull up the app I wrote to access my online Book of Shadows, which there is an actual app on Android, or you can just visit the Wiccan.pw. And that's me actually using technology in the circle as part of my ritual. Why have a paper book when I have access to the bulk of humanity's knowledge right here? Oh, did not mean to wake that up. So I do keep an electronic copy of my electronic shadows on my altar, which serves two useful purposes. One, it puts, for me, the Book Shadows is one of the more sacred objects or sacred things in my practice because I consider my practice to be fairly intellectual. A big cornerstone of my practice is not just doing practice, but the learning. One of my two personal mottos is Descendo Decimus, which I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing it right, but I don't actually speak Latin, which comes from the writing of the philosopher Seneca the Younger. Descendo Decimus translates to by by teaching we learn. In teaching we learn. I've heard a few different ones. I usually go with by teaching we learn. I think that's a great idea. I love learning. And I find when I share what I learn with other people, I learn it better, I learn it more in depth. Which is why for even like little basic things I do, I'll write a tutorial. Recently I learned how to use a specific function in the Linux operating system. I'm a computer geek. What can I say? I'm a geek on a lot of things. I mean, if you can't tell from my rocket posters and actually that's my telescope tripod over there, I'm a geek. Look, that's not a lot. It's not important though either. Hey, there goes my train of thought again. Bye bye. Oh, that train's gone. I forgot. But I've been finding myself. Yeah, I've been finding myself thinking. This is Mabon. We are going into the light half of the year, or the dark half of the year. I'm in the northern hemisphere. So we're going into the darker half of the year, which will last until the spring equinox, which will be Ostara. During this half, I know there's a by the book definition for the differences between the light half of the year and the dark half of the year, but I do find from my personal experience, and I always, as always, only speak for myself, I find the dark half of the year to be the contemplative part of the year. This is the part where I want to move into my own mind. I want to learn. I want to study. This is the part where I'm going to be pulling out books. I'm going to be knocking out courses and classes and whatever workshops I sign up for. This is the part where I grow here. And honestly, during this part of the year, you'll probably see. I'll probably do more of these vlogs. I'll probably be doing more and more posts on my online book Shadows. I've actually been doing a lot more the last few days. My dog just sat down in the chair next to me and startled me there. So, as we move into the dark half of the year, I've been contemplating, and my using more and more technology in my practice has got me thinking, where is the future of Wicca and technology? After tonight's Mabon ritual, we had another member of the tradition, who goes by the name Ed the Pagan. He was in the chat, Zoom chatting with all of us because he was in the ritual with us. And he was talking how he sees that the online working group, that's what the term I'm going to use, the online group of us that tends to show up for a lot of these full moon and Sabbath rituals. We're getting to the point where we're almost forming our own online temple or shrine. We're building something there. And that, along with the access to things like VR and toolkits like Unity, which allows people who aren't like experts on things, people like me, to be able to build software and video game style environments and VR environments. And groups like ours may eventually just move into a full VR space. And this has me thinking. I've been thinking about doing a virtual temple for a while, and this would be my vision of it's been something like an MMO style environment, like World of Warcraft or Lord of the Rings Online, but instead of it's a video game, you're in a sacred space, or you're in a sacred grove of trees. In the clearing, there's the fire, and the altar's ready, and you can interact with the altar tools. And it's an MMO environment, massively multiplayer online as MMO. It's a video game term, but it's the best I have. So you can have other people join you in this virtual environment, not just like a Zoom call where you just got little video like this video, but 10 of them, and just everyone's in their own little world, and you're just looking at them through a little picture frame on your screen. But why not build a VR environment or even an immersive gaming environment that, yes, you'll still be looking at them through a screen, but why have everyone in their own little separate environments? We can all meet together in a single VR environment. We're all in the same place at this point. We are all separate in our own homes, in front of our own machines, but we're together. And I've been pondering this for a while. I've even been looking into maybe what it would take to build something like that. And the more and more I'm reading, the more and more I'm realizing it's not impossible. Difficult? Yes. Well, difficult if you don't know what you're doing. And I'm not a video game designer. I've always wanted to be, but I'm not. But thanks to the tool sets, and I say Unity because that's the one I'm looking at, it's become building such an environment for our community, the pagan community, is becoming easier. Because imagine trying to build like an MMO environment just to have you and a few friends have a ritual 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. Tool sets are becoming easier and easier. They're also becoming cheaper. Tool set like Unity is free. Yeah, there's paid options if you're using in certain commercial environments, but for somebody like me, who's working on just doing this as a hobby, because at the end of the day, I'm a hobbyist on this kind of stuff, free. Okay, if I want an easy pre-built system so I can set up the server client part and make the online feature work, I'm going to have to pay a few dollars out of pocket. Not even that much, though. If I just want a virtual environment for a single person, and anyone who uses it, they'll have their own private environment, which also means you'll probably have to download it, but whatever, I haven't figured out the distribution yet. Free. And I'm hoping that maybe the plague, the 21st century plague is what this is, maybe this will encourage more pagans who would have otherwise shunned this thought even 2 years ago. Even a year and a half ago, when all this was just starting. Maybe it'll open their eyes and make them think, what can we do to expand our community? Not only will this make the existing community be able to interact with each other easier, but it'll give us ways for people who want to join the community to interact with us, to learn from us, and to be part of this community. I remember 20 years ago, let's call it 18 years ago, I started practicing in 2001. I was in high school, and it was September, October, maybe early November, but I say October. Joining I didn't know how to join the community. I could read what I could on the internet. I had internet access at school, so it was firewalled, and you could get what you could get. I don't know why I just never went to the library and looked for an actual book. That I don't know, didn't occur to me at the time. No, I didn't want anything physical. That was it. I didn't want an actual physical, tangible object. I wanted to just be able to read and try to commit to memory what I had learned. Just because I didn't know if my parents would approve or not. I found out later, no, they didn't approve. That was the first time. That was the first. Like, I think I mentioned in my last video that I once had like all my pagan stuff stolen from me. Yeah, they didn't approve. And I do say it was stolen because when I was an adult, and how they went about it was just irrelevant to the story. But I think as more and more pagans start to embrace technology in our practice in varying ways, there are some who, like me, want to see us practicing in a fully interactive electronic space. I almost don't want to call it virtual space or virtual reality, because that makes it sound like it's less real, and I think it is just as real. It's just different. Um, but I'm hoping that once we're on the other side of all of this mess that the world's in, maybe, hopefully, the community will adopt technology a bit more. I'm sure there will be plenty of people who are doing Zoom now just so they can do rituals with their covens and their groups, who will go back to in-person meetings. And that's fine. If that's what works for them, that's fine. But I'm hoping they won't just immediately shit all over those of us who want to for being fake or whatever. Because there are those who think that if it's not in person, it's not real. And no, it is real. It's just different. Experiences I had tonight at tonight's Mabon ritual were as real, just as genuine, just as spiritually moving as any I have ever had in meat space, in the physical world. Just as real. And a lot less jerks, too, because every public group ritual I've gone to, it's always been somebody. At least if online, in things like Zoom, or when we eventually start building VR environments, you got somebody who's causing problems, and you get a warning, click, remove. Poof, they're gone. Now, obviously, we have to hope that the people who have the banhammer power don't abuse it. But that's a risk you take in anything. I do want to see the community move, or at least embrace more technology in what we do. And I don't want to see this used as a new front for the community to gatekeep. Online, I think, has been... I will say, I do believe the internet has been one of humanity's greatest inventions. Back in the day, I want to say it was AT&T, but I didn't even know. I can't even remember. They used to say, the phone company, one of the phone companies had the saying, reach out and touch someone. Because the phone system made the world smaller. To communicate with your friend on the other side of the country, a letter could have taken days to get there. A phone call is instantaneous. The internet is instantaneous. And it is worldwide. Yes, phones are worldwide too. But thanks to the internet, me and you and everyone has access to a platform where we can communicate with each other. And I'm speaking for the Pagan community, not just society as a whole. Well, I guess I'm speaking for both. We've built a communications platform, the internet, that connects everyone. Well, maybe not literally everyone. I'm sure there's people that don't have internet. But we're probably at the point where the majority of the world's population has internet access. This is given the tool for everyone, not only to communicate with each other, but with the world. I believe it was Andy Warhol said that in the future, everyone will be world famous for 15 minutes. And if I recall, he was speaking about television. But thanks to the World Wide Web, that is more true today than it was when he said it. To be on television, there are gatekeepers. If you want to be on TV, you have to get on TV. And there are gatekeepers who decide what goes on the air, what doesn't. What'll make us $1, what doesn't. And if you are not profitable to some company, you're not getting on. You're not getting your 15 minutes. Thanks to the World Wide Web, I can go down the street a couple blocks of a building, say, sign me up for the internet. They give me a box I plug in. I give them some money every month, and I have access to the world. I can go on Facebook right now. There's one out of every 7 people on Earth has access to, is on Facebook. Not just they have access to it, they are on Facebook. They have an account. And I can go blast out a message that, in theory, 1 out of every 7 human beings will see. Hold on a second. There. Yeah. Sorry, I wanted to look something up there. According to a quick Google search I searched for how many people have ever existed. Of all the people ever in the history of the world who have ever lived, just over 7% or 6% of them, 6.7% of them, are alive right now. Yeah, that doesn't seem like much. 6% of all the humans ever are alive right now. That is a lot of people. And you can jump on Facebook for free, thanks to the internet, and have a conversation with over 1 billion people. Or let's call it what it is. Almost 1% of every person who has ever lived is on Facebook right now. And you can talk to them. That is the tool. That is what the internet has given the world. That is what the internet has given our community. We now have the ability to spread our message. We have the ability to communicate with our fellow pagan community in ways that we never could have dreamed of. Wicca itself is less than 80 years old, I think it is. I'm just not in a place to do that math right now. We're less than 80 years old. In that 80 years, we've gone from a point when you couldn't buy our books in bookstores because it was illegal in some countries. In some countries in the first world, like England, only a few decades ago repealed their last witchcraft laws. I'm pretty sure it was after Wicca was founded too. We have gone from points when you couldn't find books, or there's only 1 or 2 publishers that'll even print the book, and good luck finding stores that'll carry it. We've moved to points where, thanks to growths in technology, printing has gotten easier and more accessible to common people, to groups that aren't huge organizations. TV and movies have become more and more accessible in that period. And, well, some portrayals of us is not been flattering. Either to stir up moral panics like you had in the 80s and early 90s, or just because unflattering portrayals of us make money for the industry. But it got us out there. The World Wide Web has not only gotten us out there, it's given us a two-way form of communication where we can talk to each other. It's not like a radio or a newspaper or a TV where it's a one-way message. I speak to you. That's the end of it. There's no way for you to reply to me. Well, I guess maybe you can send me a letter and maybe I'll see it. On Facebook, I can go say something on the internet on Facebook. And you can just go, reply, type your reply, and I see it. Everyone who's reading this conversation can see it. We can have a dialogue. We can have meaningful debates. We can build a community. have access to the means of communication. Gatekeeping is a problem. And I've been thinking about gatekeeping a lot because Ed the Pagan in our Mabon ritual was mentioning that he, on his blog, or podcast, which is Pagans Tonight Radio, it's over on blog... PagansTonightRadio.com, I'm pretty sure is the website. PagansTonight.com, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I give you the right one. And I know he mentioned his topic was gatekeeping, so I do have it in there. The internet has given us the ability to get rid of the gatekeepers. If I want to write a book about Wicca, in most of the world, I don't have to worry about the law as much. It wasn't that long ago that it was illegal to even talk about it, to publish books, to practice. In the modern first world, there are still places where it is, but it's a lot less common now than it was. I don't have to worry about going through the gatekeeper of editors and publishers deciding whether or not what I have to say is worth being heard by other people, and if it is profitable being heard by other people. I don't have to worry about the censors on TV or the radio saying my message can't get out there. I can go online. You can go online right now. You can go to a site, and I'm not endorsing anyone here, but I'm giving names for illustrative purposes. You can go over to GoDaddy.com. You can pay $12 and buy your own .com. You can go ahead and pay them an additional, I think it's $12 a month. There's your web hosting. You can install WordPress on that web hosting. None of this is hard. Anyone with even a moderate amount of technology skills, pretty much you have to know slightly more than push the button to turn it on and be able to follow basic instructions. You can go for a few bucks, build your own website and talk about whatever you want. You want to start up the next pagan newspaper? You can do print and try to raise the capital for it, or you can do a blog and you can be online in 20 minutes. You don't have to worry about the censors deciding and the advertisers deciding whether or not you can be on the radio. You can go, there's sites like SoundCloud and Blog Talk Radio, where you can go and set up a podcast, a modern internet-based radio show for free. Actually, you can set up a blog for free too. But I personally prefer setting it up on my own hosting, so I control 100% of it. Because the issue is if you use a service like Blogger or LiveJournal or those ones, they're owned by somebody else who always has the option to say, nope, and click you off. We have the ability to build our own platforms. We have the ability to get our message out there like we have never had before. And I am hoping that even if the community as a whole does not maybe move over to being techno mages, I hope we start embracing this more and more. Because tools like the internet give us access to larger communities that we've never had access to. Not only to help reach out to meet new members or people who want to follow this path. We're not recruiting them. That's not what we do. And I don't want my ramblings to sound like that's what I'm encouraging, because I am not. But it gives us a way to meet those people who are just wanting to learn, so they can find places to learn. They can find people to learn from. It also gives us a way to get our message out there without going through a gatekeeper, without going through somebody who decides whether or not our message is heard in the first place, or what of our message is heard. Because there are gatekeepers who will not talk. You can't talk about witches. You can't talk about the paganism at all. And there are those who say you can, but only in a bad way. You have to. We have this agenda, and you have to fill that agenda. We now have the ability to 100% control our side of this conversation. And yeah, there will still be people out there with agendas shitting on us. But we don't have to filter our message through them first. We have the ability to just speak. Right now, I am sitting in my office. I have 2 screens in front of me. I have one monitor right here, which has my recording software, and I have one over here with the internet and any notes I need on it. I'm just looking at a camera. I've got a microphone. None of this was expensive. The microphone was the most expensive thing, like $30. And I can make a TV show, put it on YouTube for free, and I am in 100% control of my message. Yeah, it's possible that YouTube could take me down. But they are not deciding what I am saying. And I make a copy of all these that is stored on my hard drive, on my computer. So Google wants to take me down? Fine. I'll distribute my stuff, and I still have full access to my stuff. I can just throw it up on an Internet Archive. I can build my own website. I use YouTube because it's a real easy-to-use platform, and there's a lot of people already there. It's the second largest search engine in the world, right behind Google. It is one of the top websites visited in the world. I wouldn't be surprised if it's number 1. It's probably at least in the top 5. But technology has given us ways to communicate with each other and with the outside world that even a handful of years ago we could not have dreamed of. I remember as a kid, I always thought it'd be so cool to be on TV or whatever. I'm sure every kid did. Anytime I want, I can sit down, I can click a button, I can look at this camera and talk to you. Yeah, it's not TV. But what's the difference between what you see on TV and what you watch on YouTube? These days, I don't think there is a difference. It's just another media. It's just another form of audiovisual communications. The only catch is that this is one that's open to me and you. And not just those with money. Not just those who want to control the message. At the beginning, I said this video is going to be a little ranty because I've had a lot of thoughts on my mind. And tonight's Mabon ritual definitely stirred them up. So I apologize if this is ranty or if I'm getting repetitive. But these are things I think about all the time. I'm a delivery driver. I sit in my car for... I'm a delivery driver for restaurants. So I jump in my car, and maybe each of my runs are only like 10, 20 minutes. But I'm in that car for hours, just driving sandwiches to people. It's a sub shop. I work at a sub shop, so it's sandwiches I'm delivering to people. They're tasty sandwiches, but I have a lot of time to sit there and think. And as we go into the dark half of the year, a time that I personally find stimulating for my intellectual and spiritual growth, I think these things a lot. And as we move into the dark half, I'm thinking these more and more. Yeah. Tonight's ritual is beautiful. The ritual itself comes from the second degree Corellian materials. Like if you're studying to join the second degree of the tradition, it's from that set of materials there. They made a few modifications. There was 8 or 9 of us, I think, at tonight's ritual. Honestly, I didn't even count. I don't even recall. But it was a wonderful ritual. We had the person kept, as I mentioned earlier, the person who actually we have two ladies, two of our priestesses who actually do the ritual. One tends to do most of the reading and the actual speaking, whereas the other one actually has the altar and actually lights the candles and does the altar stuff. I'm sure there's a word for it. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but we had um, yeah, the one who did the altar, she said she's traveling, so she actually had to pull over on the side of the road in North Carolina, I think she said. Maybe it was South Carolina. It was one of the Carolinas. It was north. Um, like, literally, you could see what she did. She had opened her driver's side door. She had her laptop sitting on the seat. The webcam, like, balanced on the open door facing down at the altar, which was on the ground. It was raining. It's night, because, I mean, this ritual started at 9 p.m. Eastern, and she was in the Eastern time zone, so it was dark, so the lighting for the altar wasn't great until you started getting those things. So there's obviously one unlike the ones I've done before, but it was beautiful. The actual ritual that they put on for us was quite lovely. I wish I could publicly share it, but it is not my place to share it. Although I do have a copy, I'll be putting in my private book of shadows later, because I do plan to use this ritual again. We had a couple of every week. The head of the tradition does a chancellor's chat, and it's mostly just a place we can all chat about life, the universe, and everything. So we had a couple of us from there. There were a couple who mostly only show up just for the rituals. They don't necessarily do the chat. Well, I want to know if somebody there was who I think it was. Is there a picture? So I'm Googling a picture of somebody real. Yeah, that was him. Okay. Then there's a guy in the pagan community who goes by the name Cloud, the pagan rapper. He's exactly what it sounds like. He's a pagan rapper. He joined us tonight. That was awesome. Again, somebody who's an interesting person, who I would never have met if it wasn't for technology. But I'm trying to get off of that topic. Yeah, it was a very touching ritual. It certainly got my mind thinking about a lot of things, including some hurts I need to let go. Maybe some hurts that I've caused that I need to address. We think about technology a lot, as you can guess from the first 30 minutes. This is 43. Wow. I usually don't talk for 43 minutes like this, ever. Not just on video, like at all. I am not a talkative person. It got me thinking. It really did. It's also between the ritual and moving into the dark half of the year. It's got me thinking where I want to be spiritually by the time we hit. I don't know. I don't know what I want to use for deadline. The end of this year seems awfully close. By Ostara, by the spring equinox. That's 6 months. Should I scale this timeline out to maybe the end of next calendar year, end of 2022? But it's got to be thinking about where I want to be spiritually. I've been practicing for 20 years. Do I feel like I am at And that's 20 years on and off. There have been, and when I say on and off, I mean there have been offs. There have been a couple years because life. I was homeless for, what, 3 years? 15, 16. 3.5 years? Middle of 2015 to the end of 2018. Yeah. Living in a van and then a camper. Like one of those little pop-up campers. Um, my practices got put on hold. Sadly, that was the second time I lost like all of my books and stuff because it just had to go. I had a storage unit 5 foot by 5 foot. We kept absolutely the most important stuff. Life happens. So am I where I think I should be spiritually and in my pagan training or education after 20 years? No, I feel like I'm still. I honestly feel like my knowledge is on par with like a first. So he's been practicing for like 1 or 2 years. I'm so far behind. Is there anything wrong with it? Generally, no. To me, as somebody who values knowledge and education and learning, which is ironic because I did terrible in school, but it's not crazy apparently. Apparently, yeah, anyway, that's not the point. So I want to do a crash course a year to try to get where I want to be, or at least get closer to where I think I should be at this point. I have a Book of Shadows online. It's honestly, when I started my online Book of Shadows, it was a sub-site for. I had a personal blog at the time, and this was just sort of a subdomain on. It was like, here's stuff about me. Oh, and I also have this pagan site. And then over time, it's gotten merged into my personal blog, rolled back into its own site, and now actually it's the first time it's up in it. I've been having an online pagan presence for at least 10 years. About probably 10 years next month. Yeah. Again, it's another thing, I don't recall the month, so I assume it was sometime in the fall, so I call it October. But it's been about 10 years. I wish I had a lot more to show for 10 years worth of blogging. But I know me as a tech geek. There have been times I'm like, I want to sit down and work on my blog, but instead of writing articles for people to read, I ended up messing with back-end infrastructure, optimizing a server, or messing with which theme I should use, even though I just picked a new theme. I'm never happy with the theme of my sites, ever. I just go with, it offends me the least. I know a lot of people who like my themes, but I get mired down in that so much. But I've been thinking, like, where I'm at currently versus where I want to be, there's a huge gap. And maybe I won't get that. Maybe I can't crush 20 years of learning and training into a year. I can sort of close that gap a bit. I had a tarot reading, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. Lord Don, the Chancellor of the Curly Tradition, has been promoting his new tarot deck, the Infinite Tarot. I don't think I've mentioned it before. The concept of the Infinite Tarot is you start with a deck, the Tarot of Hecate, which is a 100-card deck, and then you can buy expansions packs, kind of like how trading card games like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon, you can buy booster packs. Well, you can buy booster packs to this tarot. Each booster has a theme, and you get all the cards for it, which is usually equivalent to one full suit plus one major arcana, I think it is what it is. But you want to add to your deck, let's say, cards to represent a certain topic. I'm trying to blank on what those topics are. I think there's one for a horoscope themed one that covers all the zodiac. There's one I think for elders of the tradition and elders of the pagan community, and you can add to it, or you can even take cards out of the deck. And the goal is that you can make a deck that is exactly customized to what you want. Um, TarotAI.com currently points to the Kickstarter page. The Kickstarter is over, but that is currently the Tarot AI is the one that currently points to information about the Infinite Tarot, if you're curious. But he, Laura Don, who designed this deck along with the one it's based on. Oh, the boosters for it are you have the original Tarot of Hecate, which is 100 cards, plus 22 a traditional Major Arcana expansion, an Astrology expansion, a Muses expansion, a Numerology expansion, Runes expansion, a Suit of Witches expansion, and there's at least one or two others too. And if you got in early, you could also have them pay extra and have them actually custom make you a card, like a custom card printer for you that you can either you can have like the only one they make, or they'll just add it to a set and other people can buy it together. Tarot.com. But I had a reading done, and I was asking for advice because this is the point where I was starting to say to myself, sorry, I'm going to lean back a little because I have been sitting upright for a while. My back is killing me. And I was asking, this is the point where I was saying to myself, I want. Not just like I'd like to add more technology, but I want to. I want to be a techno mage. I want technology, which has always been a big part of my own life, to play just a hair more, a bigger role in my spiritual practice. And I asked, would he do a reading for me on it? And reading might be online, actually. And I think that was one of the ones he did publicly and posted on YouTube. But of the 9, 10, 11 cards he drew, 12 or 14 cards he drew, I think it was 12, a lot of them carried the same message. I got 2 messages pretty much out of it. This path is going to take me further than I thought it would, more than I'm expecting. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Just this path of me wanting to add technology and tweak my path to who I am. It's something that works more for me, more spiritually moving for me. I'm not sure exactly how to word. And I need to not lose focus. And when I lose focus, I mean, like there are times I'm gonna sit down and do a lesson on which school or whatever learning site I'm on, and here I am. It's like 4 hours later. I'm on YouTube learning the history of underwater basket weaving in Antarctica or whatever it is I'm watching. I get distracted easily. And when he did that reading, and card after card after card kept saying, don't get distracted, don't get distracted, don't get distracted, don't lose focus. I think it's the wording he uses. Don't lose focus. That got me thinking. And here we are going into that was only a couple weeks ago. That was not that long ago. And here we are moving into the darker half of the year. Part that where, from a spiritual point of view, I tend to... I'm sorry if it looks like I'm looking off camera. Like, I'm not looking at the camera, I'm looking over here. But this is the screen where I actually have the recorder open, so I actually see what the framing looks like. And I'm not gonna lie, that tripod is bothering me. Sorry, that's been bothering me for like 10 minutes. The Starker one's fine. That's my telescope one. But the other one is bugging me. Sorry. But as we move into the dark half of the year, I've been thinking more and more about that tarot reading. Because we're moving to the part where I spend more time learning and developing myself. In the later half of the year, I like to... The darker half is, for me, as I said, it's an intellectual phase. It's contemplative. I spend a lot of time contemplating. This is where I intellectually and spiritually grow. Whereas I find the light half of the year, I tend to pull back a little from that. One, because I just spent 6 months, usually hardcore, trying to do my studies and whatnot. And I feel more called to outwardly express my spirituality. So as we move into the half of the year where getting distracted, losing focus would be more likely and more of a hindrance than it would be in the late half of the year. That tarot reading's been making me think that that's a message I need to heed. And it's not just don't get distracted. I have to figure out how not to get distracted. I'm a very easily distracted person. Even if you look at this video, you probably notice, like, I have a ring on my finger, right? And then a few minutes later, it'll be on the other hand. I only have the one. I'm fidgeting with this. You see me, I just moved a tripod because it's bugging me. I get distracted. I've lost my train of thought 3 or 4 times, I think, already. I got a pair of scissors on my desk. I don't even know why these scissors are on my desk. They're distracting me. I get distracted easily. This isn't new. I 100% guarantee this is not new for me. This is who I am. So I think I'm going to be spending part of this upcoming dark half of the year not only learning about growing myself, but learning how to not let myself be distracted, how not to let my learning fall off the rails because, well, I was going to read that thing that I thought was interesting, but I watched YouTube instead. I was going to read that book I've got, or watch that YouTube video, but I've been on Wikipedia for 9 hours, and I'm learning the history of underwater basket weaving in Antarctica, or whatever. Easily distracted. Okay, I think, thank you for listening to me ramble for this long. Honestly, I think the first half was better than the second half, but the second half of this video was me opening up in ways I'm not usually comfortable opening up in. Interesting fact, when I record these videos, one, it's late at night. For me, it is just after midnight right now. We're 58 minutes in, so I started just after 11. My wife, who sits in the other room, I ask her to watch TV and put her headphones on. Well, it's shows on her computer. Because I don't like her listening to what I talk about. Not that I'm ashamed, not that I'm embarrassed. It's just hard for me to open up like I do on these videos and not to be self-conscious because I get self-conscious. So, I think the first half of this video was the most interesting. The second half of this video, I opened up in ways I don't comfortably open up in. Not often. So thank you for sitting through that ramble of a rant. If you've made it this far and you do take anything from this, here's what I'd ask you to take away from it. One, to go back to the first half of this talk, we as a community have been given, we have technology that's given us tools to communicate with each other and with the world at large like we've never had before. And I say community as the pagan community, but I'm talking the internet's given us tools for the world to communicate like we never have at home. And it would be, and the last year and a half, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, has given us an opportunity to embrace it. We've always had opportunities to embrace technology. We always have, and some haven't in the pagan community, some haven't. That is their prerogative. I do think the last year and a half, though, I do think 2021 and 2020 and the COVID pandemic has given us a call to arms, if you will, to embrace it. I'm not saying we have to abandon everything we do and embrace technology as the only thing, but I think it would be a crying shame if we as a community don't embrace it more. As we go into the dark half of the year, I would also ask you to ask yourself, where are you spiritually? Where are you as a spiritual being versus where do you wish you were? Going into the dark half of the year, if you say, I wish I knew more, I wish I had learned more, here you go. This is, I believe, the season to do it in. If you wish you were more outgoing, more interactive with the community, personally, I save that for the light half of the year, but hey, these are questions I ask you to ask yourself. Where do you wish you were as a spiritual being? So as I said, thank you for joining me thank you for giving me an hour of your time so I can share my Mabon contemplations with you. I wish you all a happy Mabon. Take care. Stay safe. And as always, may you blessed be.